So yesterday we learned how to compare and order decimals. Today we're doing the exact same thing. So this is going to be just a little bit of a review video. So let's say that we are comparing the decimals 83 hundredths and 85 hundredths. So my brain just works that I need to look at these numbers in vertically, like in a column, because I can just see it a little bit better. So I'm gonna transfer this 85 hundredths to below this one because I can see this a little bit better than looking at it vertically. So when we compare, we're looking for which one's bigger. So in this case, 8 and 8 are the same in the tens place, so we need to look at the next column, which would be in the hundredths place. Now between 3 and 5, 5 is obviously bigger than 3, so 85 hundredths must be bigger than 83 hundredths. So if we were to write our little alligator sign, it would be facing the 85 hundredths because the alligator likes to eat the most. So this would read 83 hundredths is less than 85 hundredths because this 5 in the hundredths place is bigger than this 3 in the hundredths place. But what if we had something like this? So we've got 6 and 6. Those are the same numbers, so they should be the same value, but this is why I like to write it in a column, because if we were to write this, it would look like this. Now I'm looking at this, and this one has more digits than this one. So in order to make sure that I'm getting the most accurate answer, I'm going to add a 0 to this 6 up here to make them have both, they both have 2 digits, because I know that this 6 tenths is equivalent to 60 hundredths. I'm not changing the value, I'm just adding a 0 to make it have more digits. So in this case, now I can kind of look at this and it looks a little bit easier to see that 60 is obviously bigger than 6. So this 6 tenths is bigger than this 6 hundredths. You don't have to add that 0 in there if you can see it and know that this 6 tenths is bigger than this 6 hundredths. I like to do it just to make sure that I'm getting the most accurate answer. It's going to get a little bit tricky here pretty soon, so doing that, getting in the habit of it now is going to really help us later on. Let's do one more, just comparing. Let's do what about this? So I've got 2 tenths and 20 hundredths. So I'm going to just copy it down over here. Kind of like the last problem, I can just add a 0 to this 2 to make it have the same amount of digits. Now they're both 20 hundredths. Even though I didn't start with that 0 there, when I add it, it becomes the exact same number because they're equivalent. So that one has to be equals. 2 tenths is equivalent to 20 hundredths. They're the exact same thing. You also today might be asked to order decimals. So put them in order from least to greatest or greatest to least. So let's do 7 tenths, 27 hundredths, and 43 hundredths. So again, I like to put them in a column first because it's a little bit easier for me to see. So I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to go up and erase what I drew because there's a lot going on. So I'm just going to erase these. So now I've got 7, 2, and 4. Because these numbers down here both have 2 digits, I'm going to add a 0 to this and make it 70. So now I've got 70 hundredths, 27 hundredths, and 43 hundredths. And let's say that I'm going greatest to least. So I'm going biggest to smallest. Between 7, 2, and 4, 7 is the biggest number there, so 70 hundredths has to be the greatest number there. And then between 2 and 4, 4 is bigger than 2, so 2 has to be the least there. And then the 4300 just comes in the middle. So if I was to write this in greatest to least, it would be 70 hundredths, comma, you gotta have that comma to separate them. Otherwise, when you put them all together, it looks like one huge long number. 43 hundredths, comma, and 27 hundredths. This is the greatest number, and this is the least number that's on this problem. Make sure that when you are writing them as your final answer, pay attention to which way you're going, greatest to least or least to greatest, because if I was going least to greatest, this would be flip-flopped. So make sure that you're paying attention to that. Let's do another ordering. Let's do So I got 5 hundredths, 5 tenths, and 7 hundredths. So again, I'm going to copy them all down in a column. Because these two numbers down here both have 2 digits, I'm going to do the same thing to this 5, and I'm going to add a 0. Just to make it a little bit easier to see. Like I said, if you can just know that that equivalent number is 50 hundredths, you don't have to write the 0, but I'm going to strongly suggest that you do because it's going to come in handy here pretty soon. So I've got 5 hundredths, 50 hundredths, and 7 hundredths. And let's say that I'm going least to greatest, so smallest to biggest. Well, 0 and 0 are the same, so that means that this 5, this 50, has to be the greatest. So I'll put a G there. And then now I'm looking at this 5 hundredths and 7 hundredths. Between 5 and 7, 7 is bigger than the 5, so the 5 has to be the least. And the 7 is just going to come in the middle. So least to greatest should be 5 hundredths, 7 hundredths, and 50 hundredths. So when you're doing your work today, make sure that you're paying attention to 2 things. Number 1, put a 0 when there is less digits in a certain number to make it the equivalent, just to make sure that you're comparing the exact number. Because if I looked at this and I just thought it was a 5, I might have thought that those were the same. So add that 0 just to make sure that you're doing it absolutely correctly. And then also make sure that when you're ordering the decimals, make sure that you're paying attention to whether or not you're going least to greatest or greatest to least, because that is going to change your answer, the order of the answer whenever you write it. So, and then this step of writing in a column, totally optional, but it really helps me to see it in a line. This is a little bit easier for me to see. In this column right here, 5 is the biggest number. And then in this one, 7 is the biggest number. It's just way easier for me to see it in a column versus in a row going vertically, horizontally. So same number of digits, and pay attention to the order in which they want you to do it.